काञ्चनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं पञ्चमसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतुष्के नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुर्भ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमोस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रे येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपरिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। So we are studying chapter 12. Only last 8 verses are remaining. Right? So these 8 verses, they talk about the qualities of a devotee which make the devotee dear to Krishna. So it's a very interesting section, very important also, right? Yeah, Krishna lists out around 31 qualities. And he says, whoever has them is dear to me. And at the end, he says, whoever has all of them is most dear. So let's look at verse number 13. Qualities that make one dear to Krishna and dear one to Krishna. Verse number 13. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitraha karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha shami santushtaha satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchayaha mayyarpita mano buddhir yo mad bhaktaha same priyaha. So adveshta sarva bhutanam maitraha karuna evacha nirmamaha nirahankaraha Sama Dukha Sukha Shami. One who is not envious, Adveshta, but is a kind friend to all living entities. Maitraha Karuna Evacha. Nirmamaha, who does not think himself a proprietor. And Nirahankaraha, who is free from false ego. Sama Dukkha Sukha Shami, one who is equal in both happiness and distress. Santushtaha Satatam, always satisfied, who is tolerant. And then Sattam Yogi Yatatma Drida Nishchaya, self-controlled and engaged in devotional service with determination. Mai Arpita Mano Buddhir is mind and intelligence fixed on me. Yo Mad Bhakta Same Priyaha, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Purport. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone. Nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. Nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. So it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14.8, it is stated, Tattenu kambam susamikshmano bunjana evatmakritam vipakam. When a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I'm not getting all the punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. The devotee is always kind to everyone, is also always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. So, these verses here in Gita are glorification of a devotee by Krishna. Right? Krishna is glorifying his devotees, speaking about their wonderful qualities. Generally, devotees glorify Bhagavan, that Bhagavan has such wonderful qualities. But here Krishna is glorifying his bhaktas, that his bhaktas have such nice qualities. And those qualities endear them to him. So as a sadhaka or as a practitioner, we should also be interested in developing these qualities because that will make us dear to Krishna. Mm. So first is adveshtaha. He is not envious. Doesn't do have envy towards others, which means this person is not unhappy to see others happy. Is not unhappy to see them make progress in life. Is not unhappy to see them make spiritual progress. Is not unhappy to see them doing better than oneself. So that's free from envy. Hmm. So adveshtaha sarvabhutanam. So this envy is very difficult to give up. Very, very difficult to give up. But this is what Krishna is saying. First quality of a devotee is a devotee is not envious. Right? So second, this then is very friendly to everyone and very compassionate, very kind to all. So that is in his or her dealings. So Maitra Karuna Evacha. And then Srila Prabhupada explains how this person is free from bodily concept of life, free from false ego. What I very much like about the purpose of Srila Prabhupada is that he is elucidating these qualities, you know, from his own realization. He practically demonstrated all these qualities perfectly well, actually, perfectly well. So he can explain also what these qualities mean and how we can bring it in our life, how we can practice them or how a devotee practices them. Right. So it's very, very interesting purpose by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Yasmano dvijate loko lokano dvijate chayah harshamarshbhayodvegair mukto yah sacha me priyah. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. Mm. So he's not putting anyone into difficulty, not putting anyone into anxiety by one's speech or by one's actions or by one's thoughts, and is not disturbed by anyone. And others also cannot put him into anxiety. Right? That's a devotee, very dear to Krishna. So if we go through these verses are kind of a reality check for every practitioner, like, oh, do I have these qualities? I might be chanting Hare Krishna. I might be doing so many services. I might be doing this and that. Do I exhibit these qualities? Do I have these qualities? Right? And if I have, then I'm dear to Krishna. Otherwise, I'm not so dear to Krishna. Mm, isn't it? So this is very important, and that's why it is said by wise people that those who are intelligent, they actually cultivate good qualities, but they spend their energy and time in cultivating good qualities. They're not so those who are not so intelligent, they are only interested in acquiring material assets, wealth, material, you know, objects, properties, stuff like that, material possessions. More intelligent than those are those who are interested in acquiring knowledge. But more intelligent are those who are interested in acquiring good qualities. Now, how do we acquire good qualities? We acquire good qualities by practicing them. That's how we acquire. Can I be truthful? By practicing truthfulness. How can I be friendly? By practicing friendliness. How can I be non-envious? By practicing non-enviousness. Right? So these things are very important. So that's where a human being is supposed to put his time and energy into. But sadly, in the modern affairs, we can see that most of our time and energy goes in material things or material acquisitions. So these qualities make one dear to Krishna, practicing these qualities. Right? And whatever experiences we go through in life, there are opportunities for us to develop these qualities very much. Yeah, so this is very important to know and apply in life. When we are doing services with other devotees, it's not easy. And we should know it's not easy for some good reasons, so that we can learn to be more humble, more tolerant, right? More patient, more kind and compassionate. But instead of looking at that aspect, we start complaining why he is like that, she's like that, things are like that. No, so we should know that there's always the good side of something and the bad side of something. So we should look at the good side, and the good side is it is going to help us develop some good quality. And that's what makes one dear to Krishna, very much dear to Krishna. Because Krishna likes his devotees to be glorified, that he or she has such nice qualities, because that's like his pride, Krishna's pride. You look at my devotee, look at them. They are so humble, they are so tolerant, they are so kind. So it's Krishna's pride. Mhm. He by whom no one is put into difficulty. Purport. Let's read the purport. Sanjay Mishra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. A few of a devotee's qualifications have further been described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional services, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification and his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he's sorry and envious. When he's expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee is always transcendental to all these disturbances, is very dear to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, may I ask a question?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, there are like sometimes we see like some senior devotees, or they also act like counselors. They try to bring in more rigor, and that cause bit of anxiety to the devotees they are engaging with, and
They try
the
to bring more what?
uh, that brings more anxiety or pressure to the devotees because they want to keep them under control. And sometime like in the conversation they express that they do it intentionally, so as a service to the Krishna, so that the devotees stay on the track, but that causes anxiety or kind of pressure to the devotees. So how do we see that? Are they still dear to Krishna because they are doing that in service of Krishna, or they should
No,
be? Yeah.
no, no. See, first of all, we should know one thing, that a pure devotee of Krishna doesn't function in that manner. Look at any examples of pure devotees. They don't function in that manner. They
Hmm.
don't unnecessarily put pressure on people to do things. Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted Srila Prabhupada to go to West and preach Krishna consciousness in English language. But Bhaktisiddhanta didn't start putting any pressure on him that now give up your family, give up your home, and just go. You are young. When you'll be old, how will you do all that stuff? Right? So
Hmm.
when the time came, then Prabhupada went to the West and did the things that he was supposed to do. So a pure devotee will not put pressure first. Second, they know to whom they should give pressure, because they understand this person can take the pressure. Not everyone can take it. So most of the counselors we have in our movement, I'm sorry to say this, but they are not qualified to be counselors. For two reasons I say that. First reason, they don't study the scriptures. So their scriptural knowledge is very puny, right? And second thing is that they don't even have the skill of counseling. They are professional counselors and they're trained to be counselors. So they know how to deal with human emotions. They know human psychology. So neither they have the material skill which a counselor requires,
Mhm.
which is, because it's a professional thing. It's not that you just have some knowledge and you are senior in age so you can give counseling to people, right? Mhm. So first thing is that just because you're senior, it doesn't make you a counselor. And second thing is that on what basis they are counseling? They should study the shastras, but hardly they study, hardly they read. So what is counseling in iskcon? It's basically like, in a company, there's a sales head. So that sales head is given a target. So then that head has some people working under him. So his counseling or his motivation is all about getting those targets achieved, right? That's all that person knows. So similarly in ISKCON, they know that there are certain targets. What are those targets? Get up in the morning, chant 16 rounds, do this much seva, do this much book distribution, do this, do that, get initiated, and all those targets are there. And somehow or other, by hook or crook, they try to achieve those targets and they think this is counseling. Right? So this is not really counseling. So we have to know that people who are counselors, they have to be very mature. At least they should know human psychology. And not many are like that. Not many can be like that. Because to be that
Mhm.
like that, you have to be a Brahmana by nature. You know. So that is, and people have to be a little broad-minded, not very narrow-minded. As soon as I, as a counselor or as a teacher, have a personal agenda to fulfill, I'll fail in my job as a counselor, teacher. Because then I'm not thinking of looking at what you need. I'm only interested in giving what I want to give.
Mm.
Getting right.
Yes, Prabhuji,
So
thank you very much.
that counseling is not really actually, in essence, counseling. But it's okay. Something is better than nothing. People do need some guidelines, suggestions, advices. So we should not see their counseling as an absolute thing. Whatever is good in that, we should take. And whatever we see is not really matching with an ideal behavior or an ideal conduct, we should just overlook that,
Yeah.
right? But we should not think that this counselor is the highest absolute authority. Whatever he or she says is absolutely correct, right? Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hmm. So this is very important. So, that counselor thing, I don't really, that's why I think to some extent it's nice, but I can't say it's always correct what the counselors say or they know. So that's why last time, as I was telling, right, don't give advice in something which you don't really know. But a counselor thinks I know everything. Whatever you want to ask, you ask me, right? And the problem is because you see your counselor behave like that. When you become a counselor, you also behave like that, right? Because that becomes like a standard, but it's a wrong standard.
Prabhuji, can I ask you something? Prabhuji, I mean, as a devotee, we don't have much choices, right? For counsel, I mean, choosing a counselor, right? Because we have hardly any knowledge. Who's good, who's not good, who's, I mean, thorough with psychology and all that, human psychology. So rarely we have a choice that to choose the right counselor because we do not know. Secondly is,
Prabhu,
um,
when you got married, you had many choices. No, right?
yes,
And is the person whom you got married to a perfect person? No. But then there are certain things good about that person, and there are certain things which are weaknesses of that person. Over the time, you come to know, right?
right,
So that's why the counselor may not be perfect, but you should not be blindly following what the counselor is saying.
okay,
Use your intelligence. Just like you don't just blindly do what your wife tells you to do or your husband tells you to
right,
do,
right, right,
right? So that doesn't mean no, that first interaction I have with someone or first counselor I get or first whatever relationship I make, it has to be the person has to be perfect only. The person may not be perfect. That doesn't mean that that relationship is not required or that person is not doing
correct,
anything good to you. That person
correct,
is definitely doing something good to you. But to see that person as an absolute authority, that's what we are saying is not correct.
correct.
So we have to
Yeah,
use a little bit of our intelligence. It's very important. And how do you do that? You study the scriptures. So if you see something happening which is not matching with what is to be done, so you can always ask in a humble manner. But I read or I think this is not the right thing.
right. Clarifying the doubts. Right, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
So this intelligence is very important. We have to use our intelligence. We don't just blindly follow, right? We don't do that. Even Srila Prabhupada said, if you have your spiritual master, you can always ask good questions. Is that no questions are allowed? Nothing like that. You can always ask good questions. Clarify your doubts.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just one question. I mean, to make sure that we are not in anxiety when somebody tries to put us in anxiety, the only way is like to, strengthen our intelligence. Is that what you're saying, Prabhu?
Uh,
Spiritual intelligence.
whatever ways you can do it. Strengthen one's intelligence is definitely there. Plus experience. This person is like this only. Won't change. So I change the way I deal with this person.
Mm.
So we can do that also, right?
Okay.
So we get panicked or we get disturbed because of those triggers. So we have to find out those triggers. What are those triggers?
Mm. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, let's go to the next verse. Did we read the purport? Yes, we read. Next verse. Anapekshah suchirdaksha udasino gata vyatha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhaktah same priyaha. My devotee is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. Right? How about Priyanka Mans?
Money may be offered to devotee, but he should not struggle to acquire it. If automatically by the grace of the Supreme, money comes to him, he is not agitated. Naturally, a devotee takes a bath at least twice in a day and rises early in the morning for devotional service. Thus, he is naturally clean both inwardly and outwardly. A devotee is always expert because he fully knows the essence of all activities of life and he is convinced of the authoritative scriptures. A devotee never takes part of a particular party, therefore, he is carefree. He is never pained because he is free from all designations. He knows that his body is a designation, so if there are some bodily pains, he is free. A pure devotee does not endeavor for anything which is against the principle of devotional service. For example, constructing a big building requires great energy, and a devotee does not take to such business if it does not benefit him by advancing his devotional service. He may construct a temple for the Lord, and for that he may take all kinds of anxiety, but he does not construct a big house for his personal relations. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean that people should not have their own houses. But the point is, he's giving an example, Srila Prabhupada, that if anything takes too much of endeavor, then don't do it. If it's getting easily done, material things, then it's okay. But if it's too much of endeavor, like too much of endeavor, example, you can give better than me. People in Mumbai, at the age of 25, they buy a house. Of course, they buy it on loan now. They don't have so much money. So they buy it on loan, correct? And then they spend their entire life paying that loan, isn't it? So that is too much of endeavor. Why it is too much of endeavor? Because let's say at the age of 35, if you realize, I am not interested in all this, now I want to do bhakti. You can't, because now you have to pay the loan. You're stuck. So things like that, it's too much of endeavor. But if you can easily get it, then why not have a house? It's good to have a house, your own house. But if you can't get it easily, then no problem, stay in a rented property, right? So this is very important. Yeah, I'll tell you a true incident that happened. That's I see it as very funny. Of course, it's not funny for the person to whom it happened, but for me, it's funny. So, devotees, he was sharing with me. He is a devotee, living, I think, in Mumbai or somewhere close to Mumbai now. But he was in Mumbai earlier. So his father was in army, and his mother was a school teacher. So father, he always lived away, and mother, she lived in the mountains, some small town. And daughter got married. And this Prabhu was in Mumbai working. So he's not interested in any way staying with his parents or family members because they're not devotees and he's devotee, right? So his mother worked for 20, 30 years as a school teacher, and she saved all the money she made to make a house in the mountains. So when she made the house, she was the only one living there, because husband was still in the army, and children are not living with them. So after a few months, she died. Okay. Now no one wants to live there because the father cannot live alone. The son doesn't want to go there. The son wants to be in Mumbai or place around with devotees. Daughter is definitely not going to go there. Now the house is for whom? Someone may say, well, they can sell it. Who will buy it? It's in the mountains. Who will buy it? No one will buy it. So eventually what will happen? Eventually it will become hijacked by the neighbors. Right? So waste of time and waste of energy now. Like that. Things happen in this world. We spend too much of energy acquiring things and then we ourselves are not able to use it. And then we think the next generation will use it, but they're not interested in it. So Prabhupada says that one should not do unnecessary endeavors. Some endeavors okay, but unnecessary too much, not good. All right, next. Yo na hrishyati, na dveshti, na shochati, na kankshati. Shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktiman yah same priyaha. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, one who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Arti Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you. A pure devotee is neither happy nor distressed over material gain and loss, nor is he very anxious to get a son or disciple, nor is he distressed by not getting them. If he loses anything which is very dear to him, he does not lament. Similarly, if he does not get what he desires, he is not distressed. He is transcendental in the face of all kinds of auspicious, inauspicious, and sinful activities. He is prepared to accept all kinds of risks for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is an impediment in the discharge of his devotional service. Such a devotee is very dear to Krishna. Thank you.
Next. Samaha shatrau cha mitre cha tadha manapamanayoho shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samaha sangha vivarjitaha tulya ninda sutir mauni santushto yena kenachit niketaha sthiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. One is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Purport. Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu pranams. A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress, or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. A devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuffs, sometimes not, but he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, and he may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. He is called fixed because he is fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahad gunaha. One who is not a devotee has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engage in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So how does he develop those qualities? How he gets those qualities? If he sincerely just practices the process as it is given, then naturally these qualities will come. If he follows sincerely, naturally all these qualities will come. But if you don't follow, then you will not get those qualities. All right. Last verse. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yatoktam paryupasate shraddhanamata parama bhaktastevativa me priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service, who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Krishna says, Ativa me priyaha. Ativa means very, very, lot. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Lord Krishna is telling, those who have only one quality is dear to me. Those who have two qualities are more dear. And likewise, those who have three, they are much more dear. But if someone has all the qualities, which is definitely extremely rare, then such person is most dear to me, very, very dear to me, right? And then he explains something very interesting. What is that? He says, what is your aspiration? That matters the most. Not whether you have achieved perfection, but what is your aspiration? So then he says, let's say there is a yogi, and that yogi is a perfect yogi. That yogi may have complete control over his mind and senses. That yogi might be very austere. That yogi may have some mystic perfections also. And then there is a devotee who is just practicing. But that devotee has this aspiration that I want to serve Krishna like the gopis of Vrindavan. Or I want to serve Krishna like the Pandavas. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that one is still a novice, still a beginner, but that person has great aspiration. And the other is perfect, perfect yogi, control of mind and senses. But that person's aspiration is small, right? So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in Krishna's eyes, who is more dear? The person who is not perfect but has a greater aspiration. No. Krishna sees that person as more dear to him. So this is something very interesting which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is putting light on. And what is that? That desire big, have big aspirations in life. And if you have those big aspirations, that makes you more dear to Krishna. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he had such a big aspiration. I want Krishna consciousness in every town and village, in every house. Like such a big dream. Who in this world, there are very few sadhus who ever dreamt like that, but Srila Prabhupada may had such dream, And that made him so dear to Krishna. So what you aspire for, that's how Krishna sees you. If you aspire to be a Kanishta Bhakta, that's okay. But if you aspire to be a Madhyama, even if you are not there, you are far, far away from it, but your aspiration is that. That makes you more dear to Krishna. If you aspire to be an Uttama Bhakta, that makes you more dear to Krishna. even if, let's say, I'm not there, but if I have that aspiration in my heart, so that is very important, you know. Therefore, there is no end or no limit to what we can aspire for. You can aspire for the highest. And then definitely we have to put a lot of hard work to get it. Not a problem. It's good. You get the highest, then it may take more time. So sometimes, you know, people who have small aspirations, they get success faster than those who have higher aspirations. Obvious, quite obvious, isn't it? If you want to become a lakpati, you will become faster than someone who wants to become a crorepati. Definitely, isn't it? So on spiritual path also, people have different levels of aspirations. So someone may have a very high aspiration and someone may be having very small aspirations. So sometimes those who have small aspirations, they may get that success quite easily and quickly and they become very happy. Oh, Krishna is so kind on me. You see, Krishna gave me what I wanted. And the person who has a very high aspiration might be still struggling on his way or on her way. And that person may think that Krishna is not merciful on me. So the person who got success may think, you see, I'm better than you because I already have success and you're still struggling. But that person has a higher aspiration. So that person may be still struggling, but has a higher aspiration, isn't it? So this is very important, very, very important. So we should not look at other devotees and become discouraged or proud, comparing ourselves with them. Everyone has different aspirations. You should know what is your aspiration and you should be working towards that. Right. That's the main thing, not what others are doing. Otherwise, we get so confused. Those who follow this imperishable path, we read the translation. Let's look at the purport now. Sankarshan Vishnu Prabhuji.
Lord has explained the processes of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question of who is the better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, was raised by Arjun, and the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter, it is decided that through good association, one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, atta- attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. The path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time of one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, so long as one does not have the chance to associate with the pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad-Gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and the soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Hare Krishna. Thus, end the Bhakti-Vedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita in the matter of devotional service.
Okay, so this chapter ends here. So any questions or comments? We can stop if nothing is there.
Prabhuji, one question. From the previous verse, we understand that, I mean, Krishna says that the one who is not anxious or not too happy, not too distressed, yeah, in the different situations is dear to him. How do we relate that normally? Like, because the anger is also one of the qualities, right? And sometime like we see, like from the scriptures also, right? Like Krishna also got angry with Bhishma during the war, and he also took up the weapon. Of course, the intent was different, but still, I mean, Krishna did express anger in certain situations. So how do we take that? But on the other hand side, like sometimes some people have the tendency of getting angry too often, even maybe by nature, right? So how do we see that anger part in the spirituality?
We have to decide whether this anger is centered around my duties and responsibilities, or it is just because my ego is hurt. If it is about my duties and responsibilities, then it's a different thing. Then I can say I'm using my anger in Krishna's service.
Hmm.
But if it is just because my ego is hurt, then that anger is not going to be constructive, it's going to be destructive. Purpose of anger is to actually make something constructive. Like if a child is doing something wrong and the parent is angry with the child, so the purpose is to do something constructive, which is make sure that the child does not do the wrong thing and help the child. So what is the result of my anger? If the result of my anger is something nice, then I can say, yes, I use my anger in Krishna Seva. But if the result of my anger is that devotees go away from Seva, then how is it justified?
Hmm.
So we have to look at the result. That's important. And then second thing, I've seen that people who get angry because of ego, uh, and they develop some kind of vengeance towards the other person. But people who get angry because of, let's say, if someone is not doing the seva nicely and I'm concerned about the seva, I'm concerned about someone's well-being. So then that anger will not be a constant manifestation. when the same person does something good, you will not hesitate to appreciate also. But if it is anger because of your ego getting hurt, then you always have this vengeance towards that person. So those who are pure devotees, they are not angry on the person, they are angry on some mistake of the person, or they are angry on a certain situation. But we generally get angry with the person, and then we keep that thing in our mind, oh, this person is like this only. And so,
Yeah.
How do you get angry with the situation? It's always some person, right? I mean,
yeah,
situation.
it's with the person, that is true. But then because of that, you start disliking that person, and even then you start seeing that person's good as bad, and then that is your problem, no?
Okay.
That means then your anger is not just because that person is doing something wrong. Your anger is also because of your own weaknesses.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? What is HP? Who is HP? What's your name, please? Your hand is up. What's your name, HP? So strange, people forget.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that my name was incorrect. This is Sharda here. uh, yeah. Prabhu, I didn't have a question. I thought I could read. Yeah, apologies. I didn't realize that my name was different. It's so strange. I join from the same computer every day. I mean, every time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
No issues. All right, so we stop here. No questions. See you tomorrow for the exam, Shloka exam tomorrow. Right? And the written exam next week, Saturday. All right. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.